Wuthering Waves has announced a spending event for version 3.1 alongside Aemeath. Everyone has their own feelings about spending events. Some people hate it, some people love it, many people believe spending events are bad by default. And when Honkai Star Rail had their recent spending event, Wuthering Waves players sat in their armchairs laughing from a distance, mocking it as proof of Hoyo's greed. But suddenly, Wuthering Waves introduced their own spending event, and there is silence. It's official. Wuthering Waves players are hypocrites. Or are they? Let's talk about it. There are some people who are really upset, really loud, and feel betrayed by Kuro, and perhaps rightfully so, and I'll talk about them. But are spending events actually inherently bad? Let's jump right into it. A spending event stripped of emotion is a bizarrely neutral concept. This is because if someone is going to spend money anyway, it's just positive. It's additional rewards that you otherwise wouldn't receive at any other time, despite spending the same amount of money. It's like going to the store wanting to buy a piece of bread, and there's a sale that says, buy one bread, get another free. That's remarkable. Thank you very much. In a sense, if you're already going to get Aemeath, her weapon, and Luke and his weapon, the spending event is literally free stuff. It's just better. A win-win. Okay, sure. On the other hand, what does the term spending event even mean? In what way is it an event at all? Aren't you just spending money and getting a product like every transaction in the history of all transactions? It's almost comical and absurd to call this an event. It's not even real content. In the same grocery store analogy, imagine someone said to you, the grocery store is having this crazy event, bro. Buy one piece of bread, get the other free. Have you seen this? What? That's not an event, it's a promotion designed to extract money more efficiently. Dressing it up doesn't change what it is. The store isn't offering me anything. They just want my money. Not to mention, spending events have the potential to create FOMO, which pressures you into spending more than you otherwise would, or from not spending anything at all. And no one likes FOMO caused from not spending money, right? Making non-spenders feel like they're missing out simply by choosing not to open their wallets is a bad feeling. Despite these downsides, spending events are still not inherently bad. If you were going to the grocery store to buy meat, but you saw a sale for bread, you might think this is a good time to buy bread. That doesn't make the sale bad, but it can pressure you psychologically into buying something you otherwise wouldn't. And for gacha games in particular, which already make a lot of money, this could be viewed as greedy. For most people though, the real issue with spending events isn't necessarily the FOMO, rather, are you going to be as generous to the F2P players as you are to the whales? And more importantly, how is the company going to use the extra money the spending event is going to make them? This perception is a big one. When Hoyo has a spending event in Honkai Star Rail, or makes $1 billion in Genshin during its first year, that's a billion with a B, it's unclear whether they're using that money to make the game better, or funding the next game, or buying a new yacht for Dway. I remember when Honkai Star Rail came out and immediately implemented all of the quality of life people were asking for in Genshin on their launch. At the time, it felt like all of my money toward Genshin was actually funding Honkai Star Rail instead of improving itself. Genshin Impact famously lagged behind on quality of life improvements for years, while HSR launched with solutions Genshin players had been begging for. Resin was still capped at 120, HSR had double the energy. Domains were time gated, HSR had no time gate. Genshin's weapon banner still had no guarantee, which led to Tectone spending $2,000 to get a single copy of Staff of Homa. I'm guessing that's how they made their billion, huh? Just a hunch. HSR, on the other hand, had a guarantee on the weapon banner and a 75% win rate. Imagine your friend came to ask you for money. He's behind on his rent and he needs $500. You give it to him. Then you visit his house later and notice he has a brand new TV. That's strange. You gave him the money for one purpose and it seems like it was used for another. It doesn't matter what the truth is, it's the perception. That's where the resentment comes from. Not the spending event itself, but the context surrounding it. And this context is the crux of the issue. What are players really mad about? The spending event? Being ignored? Problems not being resolved? The point is that when players see a spending event, when there are problems that exist in the game, it appears as though the company's #1 priority isn't to make the game better, but to make more money. And that can rub players the wrong way. You'll notice that this resentment and ambiguity about where the money is being spent doesn't exist within the Wuthering Waves community, because the game is constantly and visibly improving every patch, providing quality of life updates and innovations before players even ask for them. Sometimes players don't even ask for them at all. It's worth noting that Genshin has never had a spending event, which you might think is a badge of honor because you can delude yourself into thinking Hoyo is being generous by not having one. In actuality, Genshin has never needed one because of its various greedy tactics. Just to name a few, dropping 2 brand new 5 stars on the same side of a new patch, Mavuika and Citlali, one of them being an Archon. Okay, changing the weapon banner system twice from no guarantee to a guarantee on the 3rd pity with the fate system, and then again with a guarantee on the 2nd pity. What? So they did a slow improvement over time, maximizing the amount of money made just before whales reached their breaking point. For comparison, Wuthering Waves had a 100% guarantee on the weapon banner from launch. Imagine the hundreds of thousands of dollars Kuro has lost from being more player-friendly on day 1. And finally, the infamous 1 billion Primo Gem anniversary event. It's time. Hoyo has learned they're generous, but it's split across every player, resulting in an inconsequential amount of Primo Gems per player, misleading people by the 1 billion initial number. The point is, if Genshin made less money, it would have eventually implemented a spending event, just like in Honkai Impact 3rd, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero, and every other AAA Hoyo game in existence. Somewhere along the line, the Honkai Star Rail team began acting like the Genshin team, complacent and printing money, and dissatisfaction with the game started to grow, especially during Emphorius. And when HSR released a spending event, that dormant dissatisfaction boiled over within their own player base, and former players laughed outside from a distance. Hoyo has revealed their true colors, they say, despite the fact that by definition, there's nothing inherently bad about spending events. If we compare this dormant dissatisfaction to WuWa players, you'll find it doesn't exist. Wuthering Waves has constantly improved every patch, so much so that their reputation is rock solid. There is a belief that any money you spend on the game is actually being invested back into the game and not into the next one. The difference between version 1 and version 3 is night and day. The reaction to the spending event is largely indifferent because the 3.1 rewards are more generous than usual despite it not being an anniversary, and the player base is not dissatisfied, since there's nothing inherently wrong with spending events. There is no hypocrisy when players don't complain about it. Without a backdrop of dissatisfaction, unresolved issues, or perceived neglect, the event doesn't trigger outrage. Equal systems like spending events do not produce equal reactions when trust levels are different. Monetization mechanics are judged cumulatively over time, not individually. This is why the hypocrisy argument falls apart. There's an implicit trust between the developers and the community rarely found in gacha games. That being said, walking upstairs correctly is not a priority, Kuro. Fix your optimization. I can't play the game. It runs like dog water. Now, for a subset of WuWa players, a spending event is interpreted as a form of betrayal. They view Wuthering Waves as a beacon of hope in the gacha space, actively fighting against the greed and complacency of Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. They believe that WuWa developers actually listen and improve the game, and generally don't try every avenue to suck money out of the players. For example, 100% guarantee on the weapon banner, purchasable 5-star sequences straight from the shop guaranteed, and no Roblox gameplay mode with skins? What is this? Whatever. And yet Kuro stabs them in the back by introducing a spending event, invalidating all of their beliefs that Kuro isn't as greedy as Hoyo. But this reaction says less about the event and more about the parasocial relationship they built with a corporation. Kuro isn't a friend. It isn't a creator. It's a company selling a gambling product. Expecting moral purity from it was always a fragile position. But whatever, these people are in the minority. Most people are indifferent, unbothered, or tight-lipped. Is there a double standard? No, because outrage over monetization is rarely about the mechanic itself, it's about trust. So, Wuthering Waves players aren't being hypocritical. What you're seeing isn't selective outrage, it's context. Spending events don't exist in a vacuum. They're judged based on who's doing them, why they're doing them, and what they've done before. The exact same system can feel predatory in one game and tolerable in another, depending entirely on trust. When Hoyo runs a spending event, it's layered on top of years of unresolved dissatisfaction, slow-rolled improvements, okay? And a player base that already feels like their money is being siphoned elsewhere. This resentment doesn't come from the event itself, it comes from everything else surrounding it. Keep in mind, I'm not saying Hoyo isn't allowed to run spending events. They're a billion-dollar company. They don't care about your opinion or my opinion. I'm simply stating that with all the money they've already made, players are more likely to get angry when a spending event occurs, because it seems like they already have enough assets to improve the problems in the game, but instead they're focused more on making more money. It's strange that they could run a spending event in Honkai Star Rail, and yet the game could be improving so slowly, or make so much money in Genshin, and the game still improves so slowly. Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, doesn't have that same baggage. Kuro has spent the last several patches doing the one thing gacha developers almost never do, reinvesting visibly and aggressively into their own game. Systems improve. Feedback is quickly and promptly acted upon. Problems actually get fixed. So when a spending event shows up, most players don't feel betrayed. They see a company asking for money after proving it knows how to use it. Now, that doesn't make the event good. It doesn't make it generous, and it definitely doesn't mean it should be celebrated. It's still an incentive to spend money wrapped in FOMO, and that deserves skepticism, sure. But skepticism isn't the same as outrage, and that grace is not permanent. If Kuro ever stops improving the game, becoming complacent, if rewards start shrinking, if monetization starts replacing meaningful updates, then this same community will turn just as fast. And maybe it should, because in gacha games, goodwill isn't owned, it's rented, patch after patch. For now, the Wuthering Waves spending event isn't a scandal. It's a reminder, even the quote-unquote good gacha developers are still gacha developers. And the only thing keeping players calm is the belief that their money is actually making the game better. The moment that belief dies, so does the silence.